Hey guys, it's Reagan, and today I'm going to be talking about Reylo in the Last Jedi Novelization. So when I first got on this Reylo ship, I did a lot of research and there was a lot of evidence in the Force Awakens novelization, so I was like, I have to order this. So I pre-ordered it and got it on March 6th. I read it in a couple of days because I took a lot of notes while reading it. So let's get started. First thing I want to say is there was really no like extra scenes, which kind of made me sad because I love Reylo, obviously. But my analysis of it has been like internal dialogue and what they kind of said about each other. And then there was some other things that I found that were really funny and also just might be a sign and foreshadowing throughout the novel. So the first thing I want to talk about is when the Force bond first starts, Rey thinks it's an unwanted connection and she doesn't want to tell Luke about it because she just got him to agree to train with her, so she does not tell him about it. So that's why she didn't tell Luke. But also, the next thing I found funny is that Luke told the caretakers on the island that Rey was his niece, which I was like, subtext much? Is that foreshadowing? Because Rey could be his niece, because if Kylo marries Rey, she would be his niece, so that was pretty interesting, and I love that. I was like, like, that's kind of the things that in this novel that was like the little things that really got me, and I was like, I was like, okay, I see you, Jason Fry. Rey talks about how in The Force Awakens, the interrogation scene, she talks about how when she goes into Kylo's mind, it opened up like a door and she learned how he accesses powers. So I'll read you just a little bit of that because I thought it was very fascinating. This is what it explicitly says. Kylo had retreated at finding Rey in his head and had practically fled from her, but that had not been the end of that strange, sudden connection. She had seen more, far more. Somehow, almost instinctually, she knew how he accessed some of his powers at his command, even though she didn't understand them. It was as if his training had become hers, unlocking and flinging open door after door in her mind. So that was pretty interesting. I think that might kind of explain why Rey like grew so much so fast in her Jedi abilities, because she learned how Kylo used some of his powers, and so I think that helped her. And also maybe that's why she has some of his like flair, like the lightsaber twist thing that I've seen like on Tumblr and stuff like that. Maybe that explains why she uses some of his techniques in her fighting. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I did like that reference of that scene, where for me, I kind of feel like that's when the Cosmic Force initiated the bond. Now, I'm kind of skeptical if Snoke really did make the bond still, even after reading this book. In Snoke's point of view, he said he did make the bond, but even after reading that, I still think the Cosmic Force might have been at play there. I think that's when the bond was initiated. The Force bond scene where Kylo Ren has his shirt off and she tells him to put on a cowl or something. There is a slight variation kind of in the text. Kylo, when she asked him, why did you hate your father? And he's like, because I was a weak-minded fool, which is kind of an interesting variation. He does go on to say that I didn't hate him, but I think that it kind of shows when he says I'm a weak-minded fool that he really was weak and let himself be manipulated by Snoke, and I think he's becoming more and more aware of it throughout the novel, and especially that's why in the throne room scene he was able to turn easily and try to save Rey. Also, Rey just kind of reiterates the fact after that when he said your family threw you away like garbage, she's like, there's no way the Force could have told him that, and he's just like really knows her well. It just kind of proves the point where they're both two human beings that are lonely and vulnerable and like know way too much about each other comparatively to everyone else. Kylo talking about how Rey's parents threw her away like garbage, and also after Kylo showed Rey the events of what he believed to happen the night that Luke almost went to kill him and the night that he turned, it led Rey to go to the dark side on Octu because she has lost trust in Luke because Kylo showed her the vision. She really does believe him. And also she does have that biggest weakness, which is her fear of not knowing who her family is. When she goes there to a place that was calling her from the dark side, she really does sound like Kylo, and I'll read you what she says. Luke had warned her accepting his offer would be yielding to the dark side, but perhaps that was because he feared the truths it might reveal. That sounds just like Kylo and kind of showing that her dark side is coming and blooming, and also that Kylo and Rey are very similar in some aspects, but that sounds more like a line that Kylo would say than Rey. And after she goes into the cave and obviously only sees her reflection, she obviously now felt more alone. So this is what she says when she is about to call Kylo, and I think it is very deep and kind of just shows their connection and how much it's grown. She knew who she had to talk to about the cave, about what she had sought and what it had shown her. Someone who would understand how solitude and loss could eat away at you until there was nothing left. Well, that really kind of shows that Rey thinks that Kylo is the only one that can understand her. And so I thought that was a very pivotal moment, and they're both just two very lonely people coming together, and that's why the next scene was so powerful with them touching hands and you're not so alone. I think that kind of really resonated, obviously. And when Rey called to Kylo, like, she was really relieved that he showed up in that Force bond scene, obviously, in the hut. And immediately as she saw him, she thought about, like, touching him and, like, touching his hair. And so that kind of shows how intimate that Force bond scene was and how far they've grown in their relationship. Because, like, when she first saw him, she, like, shot him. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really shown how dramatically that their connection has grown so fast. And then when they touched, they were both shocked that they could touch. After realizing, after like a couple months of kind of thinking about it, and I said in my why I think Kylo Ren will be redeemed video is I think that he will survive episode 9, because I think that he and Rey will obviously have children and continue on the Skywalker saga. But now, like, thinking about it, one of my commenters said, they were like, well, like, conceive or something in episode 9, and I was like, I don't know if Disney would do that. But now kind of thinking about that, like, because they did have that Force connection and they could touch through the Force bond, I think it's more likely that maybe that's why they showed that, so maybe Rey could, like, conceive through the Force bond. Now that sounds kind of crazy, but I think that that might actually happen now, and I'm more open to it. And also just how far they've, like, their relationship has grown, even though at the end obviously they hit a bump. But I think that just in a few, like, they really went from, like, enemies to partners, finding off the greater enemy, and I don't know what's next for them in episode 9, but obviously their relationship is growing really fast, and I think it's partly because the Force is drawing them together, but I don't know. I just think it's more possible, so shout out to that commenter for making me think about that, because I really have. Also, after that, when she goes to Kylo, she, like, knows that the escape pod is like a coffin, and it's kind of funny. She's like, this is kind of interesting, this single escape pod, and it has, like, Han Solo, please return to Han Solo on it, so it's kind of funny. She just, like, flies out there. She's like, it's okay, like, Chewie, you just go out there, and it was kind of funny to me. And then they talked about it in the novel, like, the TIE fighters kind of escorted it there. So that was kind of funny. I was like, can you imagine, like, what are these TIE fighters thinking? Like, they kind of, you could hear their dialogue, but, like, they were like, what is this? Like, a ship just came out of light speed and then dropped off something and then came back, and then there's not enough room for any weapons. It just seems like a single person escape pod, you know, and then Kylo Ren turns out to be there. That's gotta be crazy, man. If I was a TIE fighter, I don't know. I'd probably start some rumors in the locker room about that crap right there and be like, what just happened there? You know? But also, it shows that, like, Kylo, he sensed Rey as soon as she left the Falcon and she was out in space, so he knew she was coming, obviously, but that's just because they can easily sense each other. Kind of like Luke and Leia. Like, Luke, in the novel, he talks about how he can feel Leia's presence anywhere because they have that deep connection through the Force, because obviously they're siblings. But I think for Rey and Kylo, they'll be able to sense each other, and I think that will be kind of harder in episode 9. I think it's going to be very similar, where they'll be able to sense each other throughout the Force because they have that deep connection. And I think it's more, like, romantic, obviously, than siblings, because they're not siblings. Yeah, but he smiled when he saw Rey, so I kind of like that. And then we kind of saw a little bit in that movie, but it said explicitly in the book that he smiled when he saw Rey, but he frowned when he saw Luke's lightsaber, probably because it shows that Rey isn't totally surrendered, and it may have reminded him of Luke and kind of snapped him back into his bad, like, state. What I also love, we didn't really see this in the movie, but they have a little banter, so I'll just read it to you guys because I really enjoyed it. His smile faded at the sight of his uncle's lightsaber. "I'll take that," he said. "It belongs to me." Rey was tempted to tell him to come and get it, as Finn had, and to remind him that she's driven him to his knees at Starkiller Base and disarmed him, that he would bear the mark of that duel forever, and lived only because she had chosen not to strike him down. But that wasn't why she had come, and they both knew it. Still, she held the lightsaber appraisingly for a moment to remind Kylo she was the one who had set this chain of events in motion. "Strange, then, that it called to me at the castle," Rey said, studying the ancient Jedi weapon, almost idly before snapping her gaze back to Kylo. "And not to you." The corner of Kylo's mouth twitched in the beginning of a smile, and he inclined his head at the soldiers filling in the hangar. "You're in no position to dictate." I kind of like that the banter where she's like, strange, it called to me. I just really enjoyed that. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because in every, like, romantic relationship that I love in fiction, they always have some kind of banter, and I just really enjoy it every time they do banter. That's my favorite. There's a pivotal moment in the elevator when Rey notices that Kylo's turning emotions aren't just about him, they're also about her, so she kind of realizes that he actually does really care for her. just going into that throne room scene. So I feel like she's kind of taken back by that, personally, because I think that not that many people care for her, because obviously she grew up alone and is an orphan. So I think she's kind of new to that, and she was kind of taken back. Like when Snoke comes in, like it's all in Snoke's point of view, which kind of sucks. So Snoke does realize that Kylo's like really confused when Snoke says that he started the Force bond. So Snoke said that he doesn't know what he wants to do with his apprentice because Kylo is weak and sentimental, and Kylo also never learned to resist the pull to the light. So that kind of shows that there's still hope in there, like I said before. Also, Kylo felt Rey's pain and panic, but he's remained calm. As Snoke said, like, Kylo is so calm because I feel like he's made a decision. He knows he has to kill Snoke, and that's why he's so calm, because and Snoke explicitly states that Kylo has found himself. He's no longer conflicted, and that's obviously because he has to kill Snoke to save Rey, who is the one he cares for. And also what's kind of interesting is Snoke says that creating that Force bond was a gamble. It obviously was a gamble because now they have too much of a connection. And he says that when Kylo kills Rey, he will be killing his weak side. So I think Snoke kind of ultimately knows that Kylo has feelings for Rey in some capacity, because her death, if he didn't care for her, would have like no meaning to him. So the novel is very similar to the movie and basically restates the movie about when Kylo killed Snoke, and there was no really like external thoughts there. Then it kind of goes into the fighting, and it says that Rey kind of in the beginning is not really using the Force and is kind of showing her inexperience. But during the fight, Rey kind of just opens up to the Force and lets the Force kind of control her and pick out her movements. It was kind of nice to see her progression kind of as a Jedi getting through this fight. And she feels Kylo's fear, and that's why she throws the lightsaber at him. And it is stated that Luke's lightsaber goes to Kylo's hand is almost if it was drawn there. And I think the Force is kind of helping them out. It's like the Force in this was kind of a character, so I think the Force was really trying to help them out and make sure that Rey and Kylo succeeded in this battle. Obviously, after the fight, Rey was elated, stating that her eyes were filled with joy in this novel because Kylo Ren had turned. And when Rey calls him Ben, that was a dagger to my heart, because he said, "That's my old name." And I was like, ugh! Like, stop, just be Ben again. You know, it's kind of heartbreaking there. I was like, oh my god, because I didn't have it in the movie. So I was like, oh my god, that's terrible. Rey is scared, like when he comes at her and there's no threat to him, she's like even more scared because she knows he's like so close, but he's still holding back and still wants to give up everything and just won't really accept who he used to be and just be Ben Solo. Like, you and Rey kind of feel like you're just like heartbroken, and you just really feel for Rey because like you're like, Kylo Ren, come on man. And then when Hux finds Kylo wakes up and he's like, Rey must have recovered first, and she like left me here, she didn't even kill me, almost as if she cared for me. And I was like, yeah, because she does care about you. But I like that that was kind of like explicitly stated, so like Kylo knows that like Rey does kind of care for him. And I was like, yeah boy, you better get your life together because she still has faith in you, man. But of course, you know what he says though? Kylo annoyed me. He's like little enraged, he's like, that will be the foolish decision that will be her downfall. And I'm like, Kylo, get your life together. You know you can't hurt Rey. Like, come on. You know, you and I here can't hurt each other. That's why it's going to be so good in episode 9 to see what you guys are going to do. It goes back and Rey talks about this, and she thinks back about this when she's like on Snoke's ship, so the novel takes it there. I'm going to read you a little bit from the book. Actually, it's a little bit, you know, because it's really good. Rey had learned that the Force was not her instrument, that in fact, it was the other way around. Just as Kylo was his instrument, despite his determination to bend it to his will, he would learn one day, she sensed. The Force wasn't finished with him. That meant Kylo's life was not hers to take. That just kind of shows that throughout the story that they're talking about the Cosmic Force, and that the Skywalkers have been instruments. Luke was its favorite instrument, and now Kylo and Rey are its favorite instrument. And Rey knows that she can't kill him because it's the Force to decide when he should die. And she knew the Force wasn't done with him yet. And so that kind of just shows that there's still hope and the Force still has plans for Kylo. And I think bringing Rey and Kylo together was kind of part of the Force's plan to ultimately bring balance to the galaxy, obviously, as I said before. During Kylo and Luke's confrontation, Kylo was hurt and basically said that he would destroy Luke's new chosen one, which is Rey. Because that's what he assumes, that Rey is like taking his place. And he's almost kind of jealous in that, and it's kind of interesting. And at the Force Bond scene, at the very end, when Rey is like leaving to go on the Millennium Falcon, she just has no compassion in her eyes, because I think she's just really disappointed. at Kylo at this point. Also at the very end, I don't remember this being in the movie because I think I would have referenced it, but I just like it because I'll read it a little bit more. Rey says, "Kylo is stronger than ever," she said. "He has an army and an iron grip on the galaxy. How do we build a rebellion from this?" But Leia just put her hand on Rey and smiled. "We have everything we need." And that kind of, I think, symbolism, obviously, because she just touches Rey and, like, puts her hands on Rey, and she's like, "You're everything we need to stop him, and that's the only way we can stop Kylo is through Rey's connection." That's got to be the way that it happens, because who's going to really help out the Resistance? Like, the Outer Rim didn't even respond, so it seems like all hope is lost. But I think that Rey is ultimately the biggest hope for them because of her connection with Kylo, and I think that's the only way that the Resistance can be saved. You know, unless Lando has a secret army somewhere and is just gonna pop down in episode 9 and be like, "Boom, boom, I'm back," you know, but I doubt that. Ultimately, this was a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it, obviously, because I love The Last Jedi because of Reylo. Also, I will be talking a little bit more about this other than Reylo in another video because I took like a ton of notes, guys. And I think that Jason Fry did a great job writing this. I really enjoyed it and hearing more point of views, like General Akbar was in it, and kind of seeing more of the backstory to make more of this make sense, make The Last Jedi make sense. And also, I feel like it filled a lot of plot holes, which I'll be talking about probably in another video, but it was really great. So I really appreciated this book, and I hope you guys enjoyed like kind of my Reylo analysis. And maybe you don't have time to read it right now, and hopefully this video will suffice. I don't know how long it's gonna be, man. I basically poured out my heart. But yeah, so thanks guys so much for watching, and please subscribe, and yeah, so bye guys, have a good day.